The session is going to be on the upgrading your ISE deployment, specifically to ISE 3.1 version with a streamlined upgrade experience. My name is Pavan Gupta. I'm a technical marketing engineer working for Cisco. Here is what the agenda is. We're going to go through the ISE 3.1 and its feature highlights. Next, we're going to move on to talking about the upgrade methods, options, and paths available for you to upgrade your deployment. Then we're going to move on to discussing about the full upgrade process in detail. And then we're going to take one of the ISE deployment, upgrading it to ISE 3.1 release by demonstrating how we could upgrade with a full upgrade option. Moving on, we're going to talking about the split upgrade process in detail, and then going to wrap up our session by comparing the split upgrade process versus full upgrade process. So we got one poll question here. So I wanted your actually answer for this. Which version of an ISE that you're making use of? Are you making use of a 3.0, 2.7, 2.6, or 2.4 or older? Just let me know your answers in the poll questions window. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds in order to answer this question. Okay, moving ahead. So what are the versions and suggested release? So we got a 1-year timeline here, starting from September 2020 to August 2021. Around 1 year ago, during September 2020 timeframe, we released Identity Services Engine 3.0. During December 2020 and February 2021 timeframe, on top of ISE 3.0, Patch 1 and Patch 2 respectively released. During the April 2021 timeframe, the ISE 3.0 Patch 2 is announced as a suggested release. At the same time, Identity Services Engine 2.6 was announced as an end of life. During July timeframe, we released a patch 3 on top of an existing one. All the patches are cumulative ones. If you have patch 3, the bug fixes are went into patch 1 and patch 2 are going to be there in patch 3 as well. During August 2021 timeframe, just 3 weeks back, we released ISE 3.1. So what are the 3.1 release highlights? We conducted webinars on the couple of features already. During June timeframe, we conducted a webinar on the ISE deployment on AWS. During July timeframe, we have a webinar on APIs for system and policy management. Now, in September, we were talking about streamlined upgrade experience. Along with these features, there are a lot of other features available in ISE 3.1. Now let's review the upgrade methods, options, and paths available for you to upgrade your deployment to 3.1. Now, the first and foremost thing that any customer would encounter is when we release an Identity Services Engine new version, what are the supported versions of an ISE that they can upgrade to 3.1 straight away? So, well, the answer for that is you can upgrade your ISE deployment 2.6, 2.7, 3.0 versions straight away to 3.1. If you're running any versions earlier than 2.6, you might have to actually come down to any of these versions. So if your deployment was having earlier than 2.6 version, you might have to come down to 2.6, 2.7, or 3.0. And then you might have to actually upgrade your deployment to 3.1. It's a 2-hop process. So we got one more poll question here. Before answering this poll question, Rigo, what was the answer for the earlier question?
Yes, thank you, Pavan. So as a reminder to our audience here, the previous question was, which version of ISE are you using? And from the results here, I can see that the top version being used is 2.7. But we also got a good number of participants on version 2.6, and then followed by those who are using version 2.4 or older, and then lastly, 3.0.
Well, that's expected one. So you might be actually moving or looking forward to actually upgrading your deployment in order to have the new feature set. I would always encourage you to actually upgrade your deployment in order to cope up with the new features available in the latest and greatest releases. So we have one poll question here, second poll question. Which method would you be preferring for an upgrade? When you're looking for an upgrade, which method would you be preferring for an upgrade? Would you be preferring GUI, CLI, or a backup and restore? Let me know your answer in the poll question while I give you a couple of seconds to answer that. So let's move ahead. So this is what the upgrade flow is going to be in high level. We're going to be talking about each and every aspect in detail, and our session is going to be aligning towards this upgrade workflow itself. The first and foremost thing is to choose your upgrade method, then prepare for the upgrade. Before upgrading your deployment, you're supposed to actually go through the checklist in order to be successful in the upgrade process. You got to run the health checks. We have two options here for you to upgrade. We're going to talk about it in detail in later sections. Whatever the method that you are choosing, whichever the option that you have chosen, you're going to be upgrading your deployment. Once the upgrade was successful, you might have to review the post-upgrade task in order to be successful in the upgrade. So our session is going to be aligning towards this upgrade workflow itself. So the first and foremost thing, the upgrade methods. What are the upgrade methods basically available for us to upgrade your deployment? There are three methods available: backup and restore, where you're going to take the existing ISE version config backup, bring up a new ISE instance with a new ISE version to which you wanted to upgrade, restore the configuration which was taken up as a backup on the earlier version, and pre-stage your nodes and then join them to the new PAN. That's the backup and restore method basically. The second method is basically on the GUI. If I'm not sure what exactly need to be done during my migration, I would be preferring to use the GUI because it will handhold me in order to upgrade my deployment smoothly. The GUI also allows you to perform the health checks before upgrading your deployment so that you would come to know what is your health of your deployment. The last method is called CLI, a way of upgrading. Through CLI of upgrading is kind of a least preferred one as it involves manual intervention and lot administration required with a lot of technical expertise on it. While the backup and restore GUI CLI has its own pros and cons, I wanted to take a moment to tell you the differences or the comparison amongst these three options. As I said earlier, the CLI was the least preferred one, but whereas the backup and restore and GUI is basically having its own pros and cons. If you're looking to upgrade your deployment with the backup and restore method, it is faster, but however, the administration is lot required. If you are not sure what exactly need to be done during the migration process, you could do it with a GUI, but it takes a little longer time than the backup and restore method. The nodes in the backup and restore has to be pre-staged. You got to take the backup of your ISE existing version, bring up a new PAN, restore the configuration which was taken in the earlier version, pre-stage your nodes so that you can join those nodes one by one or strategically to the new PAN in the backup and restore method so that it is faster and the downtime is very less. But if you prefer to go with the GUI method, the nodes are going to be upgrading in sequential manner. which takes its own time to upgrade the entire deployment based on the number of nodes that are existing in your deployment. The time taken in the backup and restore was least amongst all these options, but whereas GUI was having longer time expected. And it's going to increase per sequence in which that you are upgrading the deployment. Backup and restore involves multiple stakeholders like network administrations, system administrations, Active Directory administrators, in order to combine together to migrate your deployment. But GUI is a fewer manual intervention is required. So based on the your deployment, infrastructure, and the environment, please choose your best suited upgrade method. So now that we have talked about the upgrade method, irrespective of any method that you have chosen, we got to actually follow a certain checklist before upgrading your deployment. That comes into the preparation of an upgrade. So the preparation of upgrade is kind of actually checklist which you're supposed to go through before upgrading your deployment. You got to take a configuration and operational data backup, got to take a certificates backup, you got to take a system logs backup, and download the upgrade bundle from the CCO and keep it in the repository so that you can upgrade your deployment from the repository to the latest versions. You might have to take a note of your Active Directory credentials, RSA secret, and in order to improve the upgrade performance, you might have to actually purge the operational data. During the preparation of an upgrade, the next important thing, because most of the guys were already running on 2.6 and 2.7, the licenses have been changed in 3.x version. So you got to migrate your licenses before upgrading your deployment. Basically, 2.x is kind of a Lego model, but whereas in 3.x, it's kind of actually nested model. The base plus and apex features are combined together, and it was included in the Premier license. But whereas base and plus features are combined together, and it was included in the Advantage license. The base license will be migrated to Essential license. All the licenses in 3.x are term-based licenses and smart license enabled. So you got to migrate your licenses from ISE 2.x. Whenever you are migrating from 2.x to 3.x, before upgrading, you got to migrate your licenses accordingly. You might have to actually enable the smart licensing in order to minimize the impact on the licenses after the upgrade process. The last and the important aspect before upgrading your deployment during the preparation stage is to perform the health check. The health checks is a collection of checks which goes in parallel and lets you know the deployment health of your deployment. It's basically a collection of checklists like a platform support check, DNS resolvability, system certificate validation, disk space, NTP reachability, load average, etc. So once all the health checks are passed successfully, then you can go through the upgrade flow. If the health checks are failing at any point of time, or if any one of the health check was failing, you might have to resolve the suggested note here in the GUI itself so that you can rerun that failed check and then do an upgrade, go through the upgrade process. So considering all the health checks are passing in your environment, you can actually go through the upgrade flow. So we talked about upgrade method. Next, we prepared your upgrade preparation for an upgrade. That's what we had went through. Now the third thing is about upgrade options. So we were talking about actually GUI options in this There are two upgrade options available if you're willing to upgrade your deployment from a GUI. One is called split, which you might have already know and aware of. It was an existing one um, from the beginning, the split upgrade process. But whereas full upgrade process is a kind of a new one, which is a two-step process. In order to be successful in the upgrade, in order to avoid the failures in the upgrade, it was involving in a two-step process. In the first step, the PPAN is going to be getting upgraded. And in the second step, all rest of the nodes, all the nodes, irrespective of whether you have two other nodes or three other nodes or 50 nodes in your deployment, all the nodes are going to be upgrading in one go. So because we are upgrading all of them in parallel, the rest of the nodes except for the PPAN, the time takes for the full upgrade process is very less when compared with the split upgrade process. The split upgrade process is kind of a sequential one, and we're going to go through in detail what exactly the full upgrade process is and split upgrade process is in later section. So coming to the what are the features, split upgrade process and full upgrade process? These are two features basically. The split upgrade, if at all you are willing to upgrade your deployment from 2.6.273.0 to 3.1 via split upgrade option, irrespective of the patches, you can upgrade your deployment 2.6.273.0 to 3.1 straight away. But always keep in mind that you might have to actually have the latest patches available in order to have the stability in your deployment. The full upgrade feature was basically introduced as part of the patches in earlier releases, like 2.6 patch 10. We were having this full upgrade option. On 2.7, you got to have a patch 4 and above. On 3.0, you got to have a patch 3 and above in order to have this full upgrade feature available in the GUI. So if you are migrating your deployment with a full upgrade option, you got to actually note which patch was available in your deployment. You got to have these respective patches and above in order to and have this feature available in the GUI to upgrade to 3.1. So we talked about a full upgrade and a split upgrade process, right? Let's go in detail what exactly those processes are. The full upgrade process involves two steps. In order to avoid the upgrade failures, it was having a two-step process. In the first step, the PPAN is going to get upgraded. And in the next step, the rest of the nodes in your deployment goes for an upgrade. As you could see, the advantage of this is no personnel change. You don't have to worry about a personnel changing. And it is very quicker because it involves in the second step, all the nodes are being upgraded in one go. It makes it more reliable, which we're going to talk in a later section. However, because we were upgrading the rest of the nodes other than PPAN in one go as a in parallel, the endpoint services will get affected because of this. So there is no high availability. So if you prefer to upgrade your deployment via this option, you got to actually watch out for this high availability. There is a downtime involved in it, but it is quicker and more reliable. Why am I saying that it is more reliable? Well, the answer is pre-checks. The pre-checks were basically allowing you to make sure the health of your deployment was okay before upgrading your deployment. So before talking about the pre-checks, I have one more poll question here. Rigo, what was the answer for the earlier question?
Hey, Pavan. So for the previous question, which was which method would you prefer for an upgrade? Our number one answer here shows that our audience would prefer the GUI. The results also show that backup and restore is another preferred method. So that's our second top answer. And then lastly, we have the CLI method.
Great. I expected that. So now we have one more poll question here. What are the problems that you might have encountered during the upgrade? Whether you have encountered no problem at all, or have you encountered any data upgrade failures during your upgrade process? Or have you encountered nodes going out of sync while upgrading your deployment? Or have you encountered NTP certificates, platforms, or other failures? Or have you encountered all the problems even? Just let me know your answers to this poll question in the poll window. I'll give you a couple of seconds in order to answer this. Well, moving ahead, let's talk about the pre-checks available in the full upgrade. Why is it making the full upgrade process more reliable? The pre-checks available in the full upgrade process makes it more reliable. It basically has an extensive or an enhanced pre-checks, which avoids you to run the upgrade readiness tool. So you don't have to run the upgrade readiness tool in order to upgrade your deployment via full upgrade option. The URT was already included as part of the responsibility of URT was already taken care as part of a pre-checks. That's how it makes more reliable in order to upgrade your deployment via full upgrade option. Now, what are those pre-checks? These are the extensive and enhanced pre-checks available. There are 17 of them. Let's go one by one each, what exactly each one does. The first thing is repository validation. The repository that you have configured where you have kept your upgrade bundles, whether it was configured and available on all the nodes or not is what the first check it's going to perform. The bundle download allows the deployment ISE to download the upgrade bundle, kept it in the repository to all the nodes. So it has to download the upgrade bundles to all the nodes before upgrading the deployment. The memory check basically checks for whether the PAN and standalone has the 25% free RAM space on it or not, and 1 GB free RAM space on other nodes in order to upgrade the deployment. The PAN failover validation checks whether PAN HA was enabled on it or not. Cisco recommends you to take this backup or configuration backup and operational backup on a regular intervals. So the schedule backup basically checks whether you have configured a schedule backup or not. The config backup checks whether the backup taken on your ISE deployment was recent enough for you to upgrade the deployment. It got to be very recent because we have to actually ensure that the backup was taken on your deployment before upgrading the deployment. The configuration data upgrade is one of the responsibility of URT, where it clones the existing configuration DB on the PAN itself, performs the schema and data upgrade validation on top of it, and prepares the upgrade DB dump. That's what the configuration data upgrade check is performing here. This is one of the responsibility of an upgrade readiness tool. The platform support check basically checks for the resources availability on your nodes. It checks whether it was meeting the minimum requirements before upgrading your deployment, whether it has 300 disk space availability, hard disk allotted, CPUs and RAM allotted to it or not. Just to take a note here, the eval node is not supported for upgrade because it is not meeting these minimum resources requirement, and 3515 is also not supported for an upgrading your deployment to 3.1. So if you're running any of these 3515 appliances, you might have to actually consider replacing it with a new hardware before upgrading your deployment. The deployment validation basically checks whether all the nodes in your deployment is in sync with the PAN or not. DNS resolvability checks whether the host names and IP addresses DNS lookups were fine or not. The trust store certificate validation basically checks whether you have any certificate which was expired in the trust store. It's the same validation, but the system certificate validation is kind of looking for the such system certificates on each and every node, whether they got expired or not. The disk space check basically looks whether you have enough disk space available, free disk space available for you to perform the upgrade process. For the nodes to get upgraded, you got to ensure that you can download the upgrade bundle and unwrapping it and prepare the upgrade stage environment. For that to happen, that at least the 40 GB free space has to be available on each and every node. The NTP reachability and time source check basically looks whether the NTP configured in each and every node is in sync with an NTP server. The time was synced with an NTP server configured it on it or not. The load average check basically looks whether your nodes are already choked up or whether running into any load issues by taking a snap at a 5, 10, 15 minutes interval so that it knows whether your nodes are running into the issues already before upgrading the deployment. The MDM validation basically checks whether the MDM configured, if one, was successfully connected to the deployment and was reachable. License validation basically checks whether the smart licensing was enabled on your deployment or not, and basically looks for the validity. Here is what you can migrate your licenses to the 3.x before upgrading your deployment. You got to enable the smart licensing prior to upgrade so that your upgrade is going to be much smoother. This last and but not least, the service or process failures lets you know the status of services and applications running on each and every node. So if any one of these pre-checks was failing, then you got to actually resolve that with a resolution available in the GUI itself, the suggested resolution. So once all these pre-checks are successfully passed, then you can go through the upgrade flow. Now we have a demonstration here. I'm taking one of the ISE 2.7 version, upgrading it to 3.1 using the full upgrade option. That's what my demo is going to be on. So let's go to the demonstration. So I have an identity services engine here. I'm logging into it. Let's verify the version. We got 2.7 patch 4. You know, 2.7 patch 4 was having this full upgrade option available. So let's verify the deployment as well by going to the administration system deployment. So I got around 5 nodes, total 5 nodes in the deployment. We got dedicated primary administration node, secondary administration node, dedicated primary MNT node, dedicated secondary MNT node, PSN anti-upgrade persona enabled on the last node. Before upgrading your deployment, we have to actually ensure to keep the upgrade bundles in the repository. Let's validate whether we have configured the repository. So let's go to the repository. So I got 2 repositories here. One is for the backup purpose, another one is for the upgrade purpose. So upgrade repository is where I kept my upgrade bundles. Bundles in the upgrade repository. So for me to upgrade this deployment, I'm going to make use of upgrade repository. So let's go to the upgrade page. So as I said earlier, because we have a 2.7 patch 4, the full upgrade option is available from the GUI. If you're running in with earlier patches, you might not be able to actually get this option available. So before upgrading you can choose whatever upgrade option you wanted to go with based on your feasibility and environment. Before upgrading your deployment, we got to actually perform the health checks on the deployment. Basically, the health checks is a collection of a checklist which lets you know what is the health of your deployment before upgrading it. So once all the health checks are passed successfully, you can go through the upgrade flow. So I'm going back to the upgrade page and selecting a full upgrade option. Now, this brings up a wizard, upgrade wizard, which will handhold you and it will let you know what exactly need to be done uh, for you to upgrade the deployment using the full upgrade option. The first thing is about the checking the checklist. So you got to take the backup of your configuration and operational data, take a backup of your certificates and logs, download your upgrade bundle and keep it in the repository before upgrading it. You might have to actually take a note of your Active Directory credentials and RSA secure ID. I'll let you know why do we need this. So in order to improve the upgrade performance, you might have to actually purge the operational data, and you might have to not migrate your existing 2.x licenses to 3.x versions before upgrading it. So consider that I have reviewed this checklist, and let's select the repository. So once after selecting the repository, the upgrade bundle, you can choose the upgrade bundle uh, from that repository. So I've already kept the upgrade bundle in that repository. The third option, the patch, basically, is one of the advantage of this full upgrade option. By choosing the patch as well during this stage, allows you to upgrade your deployment and also apply the patch on top of it. So basically, it was avoiding two downtimes. One is for upgrading your deployment. The second one, on top of it, applying the patch. So within one go, you're not only upgrading your deployment, you're also applying the patch on top of it. Because I'm upgrading my deployment from 2.7 to 3.1, and I don't have a patch yet released for 3.1, so I'm selecting a patch none. This is one of the advantage for you. So let's start the preparation. The start preparation is basically triggers the pre-checks. It basically checks for repository validation, whatever we have already gone through, all the pre-checks are going to be validated against your deployment. So the bundle download and configuration data upgrade check is going to take its own time when compared with other checks. The bundle download allows the ISE to download the upgrade bundle, kept it in the repository to all the nodes based on the repository location, etc. It's going to actually take its own time. So once the upgrade bundle was downloaded to all the nodes, the configuration data upgrade basically clones the DB, existing configuration DB, performs the schema and the data upgrade validation on top of it, and then prepares the upgrade DB dump. So it's going to take its own time to download the upgrade bundle to each and every node. And the configuration data upgrade check is also passed now. Now that we have gone through the prepare for an upgrade, we can go to the next step where we are staging the upgrade process. The upgrade staging process is nothing but whatever the upgrade DB dump that was prepared in earlier step, it got to be copied to the rest of the nodes so that it minimizes the downtime. So during the upgrade staging, the upgrade DB dump, which was prepared on the PPAN, gets copied to the rest of the nodes. So once it got copied to the rest of the nodes, we can go to the next step where we were literally upgrading your deployment. So we have gone through all the preparation process, staging, checklist, etc. Now it's the time for you to upgrade your deployment. As you know, the full upgrade process is kind of a two-step process where the PPAN is going to get upgraded first, and as part of a second sequence, all the secondary nodes gets upgraded in parallel. So it gives you the total time for you to upgrade the entire deployment based on your configuration, etc. The estimated time is going to vary. So the PPAN gets upgraded in the first go, right? So the administrator who logged into the admin UI will get logged out once it gets triggered on the PPAN. Process from the SPAN directly also. So while the PPAN is getting upgraded, you can watch for the upgrade process from the SPAN itself. So you got logged out and logging into to the PPAN was successfully upgraded. It was a pre-recorded session for a convenience purpose. Otherwise, I don't want to act.
Hey, Pavan, I think we're losing your audio there.
How about now?
Yes, right now I can hear you okay. Yes.
Okay. So basically, okay, just sorry, I just gone past it. So basically, I'm logging into ISE, which was upgraded to 3.1 release. Now let's go to the upgrade page and let's verify the progress. So now the PPAN got upgraded successfully and the rest of the nodes are getting upgraded. They are in the process. So you can visualize in which state or in which step each node is in. So you can also verify the status of each node upgrade progress from the deployment page as well. So all the nodes got registered, but however, they are under progress. Now, the rest of the nodes are at the last step, starting the ISE services, and momentarily, all the nodes got upgraded successfully. So click on next. The summary list is kind of a checklist that you have already gone through it. So you can print and download the report once after the upgrade was successfully completed. You can exit the wizard and go back to the deployment and see the progress of all the nodes. So the nodes got upgraded successfully and joined to the PPAN deployment and were in sync now. So that's how the full upgrade process is basically does. It's a two-step process which involves the PPAN upgrade first and the rest of the nodes goes for an upgrade in parallel. And it's more reliable because of a pre-checks and it takes lesser time. Now let's talk about the split upgrade process. Now that we have gone through the full upgrade process, let's talk about the split upgrade process. This was an existing process which you might have already know to it. It's a sequential one, which allows administrator to choose the PSNs in order to have no downtime for the endpoint services. The split upgrade process, however, uh, doesn't have this URT included within it at this point of time. So you got to actually run the upgrade readiness tool before upgrading your deployment. This might get avoided in future releases. Basically, what exactly the split upgrade process is. We have 6 nodes prior to upgrade: dedicated PPAN, dedicated SPAN, dedicated primary MNT, dedicated SMNT, PSNs. Now, as part of the first sequence, the S-PAN gets upgraded and becomes an P-PAN in the new deployment. Because we need to have an MNT in any deployment, we were enabling the temporarily MNT on that. Temporary MNT role, which was enabled on the new P-PAN, got changed to secondary MNT. It will get changed, it will get disabled once the primary MNT gets upgraded successfully. So as part of a third sequence, the PSN gets upgraded. So do not choose all your PSNs in one go. Choose your PSNs strategically so that you can avoid the downtime for the endpoint services. Choose your PSNs in a specific location or a site-wise so that the respective sites can endpoints residing in that location can get authenticated to other site PSNs. So choose your PSNs wisely in this sequence, in these sequences. So I got two PSNs and which I'm putting it in the two sequences here. In third sequence, I'm upgrading one of the PSN in one of the location. And in the fourth sequence, I'm upgrading the PSN2 so that the endpoint services are not affected while upgrading the PSN1 and PSN2. As part of the fifth sequence, we're going to be upgrading the secondary MNT. And as part of a last step, we would be upgrading the old PPAN, which becomes the SPAN in the new deployment. So you could see the old SPAN became PPAN and old PPAN became SPAN in the new deployment. You might have to log into the SPAN, a new SPAN in the deployment, and have to promote it in order to make it as the same as prior to upgrade. That's the last step involved in the split upgrade process. So in order to minimize the downtime, you got to wisely choose your PSNs in the sequence. Do not upgrade all your PSNs. Strategically upgrade your PSNs in sequences. Update your network access devices with the secondary and tertiary servers so that while I'm upgrading a node in sequence A or a site A location in a specific sequence A, the endpoints residing in that site or location A can get authenticated against a site B or a site C. So that's how you can actually avoid the downtime using the split upgrade option, which is a very important aspect in the production environments. So what exactly upgrade readiness tool does? So uh, the upgrade readiness tool basically checks for the version of your deployment, whether it is compatible to upgrade your deployment to 3.1 or not. It also checks whether what are the personas running on your nodes. It checks for the disk space availability. It checks for the NTP, memory, system and trusted certificate store validation. It also does the upgrade readiness tool is going to be running on the SPAN. So it clones the SPAN configuration DB, prepares the uh, schema and the data upgrade on top of it, and prepares the upgrade DB dump. And it gives you the status whether you are okay to upgrade to 3.1 or not. If the status is successful, then you can actually go through the upgrade process. If the status is failed, you might have to resolve before upgrading your deployment. It also gives you the total time, it gives you the estimated time so that you can prepare for the upgrade process. That's basically the entire split upgrade process. Now that we have seen what is the process of a split upgrade, let's review that during the demonstration. So I'm taking one of the ISE 2.6 deployment, upgrading it to 3.1 using the split upgrade option from the GUI. So we have one ISC version here. Let's log into it. Let's verify the version here. We got 2.6 patch 9. In 2.6 patch 9, the full upgrade option wasn't available. You got to have a 2.6 patch 10 in order to have the full upgrade option available in your deployment. So the split upgrade option is what the method is allowed here. So let's verify the deployment also. So we got a total 5 nodes in the deployment. We have dedicated primary administration node, secondary administration node, primary MNT node, secondary MNT node, PSN and PXGrid enabled on the last node. Before upgrading your deployment, we were supposed to keep our upgrade bundles in the repository. Let's validate the repository as well. So as I said earlier, I'm making use of two repositories, one for the backup purpose and one for the upgrade purpose. I kept my upgrade bundle in the upgrade repository. So I'm going to make use of this upgrade repository to upgrade my deployment. Let's go to the upgrade page. And this is what the preparation for the upgrade. Before upgrading your deployment, you're supposed to go through this checklist, right? So you got to take the backup, keep the software in the repository, take a note of your credentials, perform the operational data purge in order to improve the upgrade performance, and perform the health check, which is very important aspect. So the health check basically gives you lets you know the health of your deployment. Let's go to the health check now. So once after starting the health check, all the health checks are going to be triggered in one go, and it parallelly runs, and it basically looks for the platform support check, DNS resolvability, system certificate validation, etc. So once all the health checks are passed successfully, then you can actually go through the upgrade workflow. If any one of the health check was failing, as I said earlier, you might have to resolve with the suggestions given on the GUI itself so that you can resolve the issue, rerun the failed check, and go through the upgrade workflow once all the upgrade health checks are successfully completed. Consider that I have already gone through the review checklist. Select all the nodes which are going for the upgrade. Click on download in order to select the repository. Select the repository where we kept the upgrade bundle. Select the upgrade bundle from the repository and proceed for download. So at this point of a time, each node was trying to retrieve the upgrade bundle from the repository to all the nodes. So you can watch out the status in the GUI itself, whether what is the progress of downloading. So once all the upgrade bundles got downloaded successfully, then the status shows for each node as ready for upgrade. So at this point of a time, you can click continue for the next step. The next step involves the staging or preparing your nodes for the upgrade process in sequences. So as we talked earlier, the split upgrade process allows you to actually take a step of which node has to get upgraded in sequence. The first thing is to upgrade your SPAN, which becomes the PPAN in the new deployment, and we enable MNT persona temporarily on it. So as part of a second sequence, the primary MNT is going to get upgraded. Once the primary MNT gets upgraded successfully, it automatically disables the temporary MNT on the PPAN, the new PPAN. So as part of a third sequence, we are going to select the PSNs. So as I said earlier, the PSNs are supposed to be selected strategically in order to minimize or avoid downtime. So do not select all the PSNs. Because I have only one PSN in this deployment, I'm selecting that node at this point of time. As part of a fourth sequence, I'm upgrading secondary MNT. And as part of a last sequence, ICE Note 7, which was my old PPAN, gets upgraded and it gets it becomes an SPAN in the new deployment. So till the last step, you can actually watch out the status in the old PPAN itself. Once the SPAN gets upgraded successfully to the new deployment, you can also watch out the status from the new deployment. So you can click on upgrade at this point of a time, and it gives you, it prepares and stages and triggers, and upgrade gets queued onto the deployment. The split upgrade process also lets you know what is the total estimated time for you to upgrade the entire deployment. So my PPAN got upgraded successfully. SPAN got upgraded successfully, and it became PPAN in the new deployment. And primary MNT was under upgrade. Now let's log into the new PPAN, and you could see the PPAN SPAN got upgraded, and it assumed the primary administrative role in the new PAN node, and primary MNT role is under progress. So while each and every node gets upgraded and added to the new deployment, you can watch out the status in earlier deployment as well, and you can also watch out the status in the new deployment as well. So once all the nodes got upgraded successfully, the new PPAN, which was my old SPAN, is what actually you are on. As part of last step, you can log into the SPAN and promote it in order to make it as the same deployment prior to upgrade. So I've already promoted my old PPAN, which is my new SPAN, so that it became a new PPAN in the deployment itself. It becomes the same as prior to upgrade. So that's basically the split upgrade process. That's how you can actually upgrade your deployment. So now that we have already talked about what exactly the full upgrade process, split upgrade process, and what is the upgrade flow, let's compare the split and the full upgrade process. The split upgrade process is basically a sequential one, which allows you to choose the nodes in sequence manner, which takes a little longer time than the full upgrade process. But full upgrade process is not a sequential one. The rest, all the nodes except the PPAN gets upgraded in parallel. Because of that nature, the downtime is expected in the full upgrade process. The split upgrade process, however, doesn't involve any endpoint services downtime at all. So you can strategically upgrade your PSNs in the deployment put in a sequences so that you can avoid the downtime or minimize the downtime basically. The time taken for the upgrade in split is going to be increasing per sequence, and it's going to take its own time to upgrade your entire deployment to 3.1. But whereas full upgrade process is much lesser than the split upgrade because it involves only two-step process, and it is a lot quicker than the split. When do I need to choose the split upgrade method? If I'm not willing to have the endpoint services affected during my upgradation or a migration, then I would prefer to go with a split upgrade process. If the high availability or the downtime is not a concern for me, I want my deployment to be upgraded faster despite having the downtime expected, I would prefer to choose with a full upgrade option. So based on your environment and the deployment and what best suited for you, you can go with a split or a full upgrade options. So once after the upgrade was successfully completed, irrespective of upgrade method that you have chosen, irrespective of upgrade option that you have chosen, once after the upgrade successfully completed, you got to actually go through the checklist again. post-upgrade. That's what we're going to call them as a post-upgrade task. You might have to actually verify the licenses post the upgrade. You might have to renew the registration, enable the smart licensing again if at all it is not enabled, register your deployment or renew the registration, verify your virtual machine settings. If in during the migration, if the nodes were disconnected with an Active Directory, you might have to rejoin it in case if it got disconnected during the upgrade time. You might have to restore the certificates if you are going via backup and restore method. You might have to regenerate the root CA only in couple of cases. You might have to actually update your profiling and post your CP update with the latest definition updates available on the feed server. Restore your MNT backup so that you're not losing the MNT operational data. Refresh the TrustSec policies, update your CP resources, and in case the TC-NAC you're making use of, restart TC-NAC adapter from the GUI itself. So with that, the upgrade workflow was completed. So here is what the resources list available for you to review it. Any questions before wrapping up our session?
Thank you so much, Pavan. So our panelists have done a great job of knocking out all the questions, or most of the questions in the Q&A panel. But we have two remaining questions here that we can address for our audience. The first of the two is, how long does it take for each rolled back, or it may be each rollback? Hopefully that makes sense.
So the rollback basically would be encountered if the upgrade was failed on any one of the node, right? So the rollback, it takes its own time to restore it back to the previous state. So this full upgrade process is more reliable because of the pre-checks available in it. The rollback in the split upgrade process, if at all it was encountered in any one of the node, you might have to actually resolve it and perform the upgrade process from the restore method or via CLI upgrade method.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And for the final question, for the health check, more specifically the license validation, how does ISE check the licensing if the upgrade is from ISE 2.x to 3.x when the licensing model changes?
That's a very good question. The license validation check doesn't check basically whether you have an appropriate licenses available or you have enough licenses available. It basically checks whether you have enabled the smart licensing on it or not. And it checks whether the status of your licenses is enabled in it or not. That's it. Because based on the environment, based on the deployment, you might choose different licenses, right? So this license validation check basically checks for the smart licensing enablement and checks whether the smart licensing was enabled in it or not, and checks for the validity of it. That's it. And it gives you a smooth health tip info icon in order for you to go through the migration process, which is outside of an ISE GUI. So in order to migrate your licenses, which has to be done outside of an ISE deployment, you have to actually, the license validation check basically checks for the smart licensing enablement alone. And it gives you a very good info asking you to go through the migration guide before upgrading your deployment. I hope that answers your question.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Pavan. Really appreciate you addressing those live for our audience. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our webinar presentation for today.